Have you ever felt that a decision was the right one, only to realize later it was a mistake? At 81, I've lived a full life, experienced plenty of highs and lows, and made many decisions along the way. But there's one decision I deeply regret: moving into a nursing home. When I first moved in, it seemed like the safest, most logical choice. I was promised care, comfort, and peace of mind. My family assured me I would be in good hands and that I would finally get the support I needed as I grew older. But the reality, it was a lot more complicated. In today's video, I'm going to share 6 hard truths every elder must know before making the decision to move into a nursing home, and the things I wish I had known earlier. You might be considering this option for yourself or a loved one, and I want to help you make an informed choice. Before we get started, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our channel so you can stay up to date with more important insights like this. Your support helps us continue creating content that truly matters. Now let's dive into the hard truths I've learned from my own experience. Let's begin. Regret 1. Losing my independence. When I first moved into the nursing home, I thought I was gaining peace of mind. No more worrying about home maintenance, cooking, or managing daily tasks. I imagined myself finally relaxing, reading more, and making new friends. But what I didn't realize was how quickly my sense of control would slip away. At first, it was small things. Meals were served at set times, whether I was hungry or not. My schedule was no longer my own. A knock on the door meant it was time for medication, not because I had asked for it, but because it was part of the routine. I could still move around, but the structured environment gradually made me feel less in charge of my own life. As time went on, bigger changes came. Staff took over tasks I was still capable of doing myself, all in the name of convenience. Decisions about my care, my daily activities, even the clothes I wore, everything became part of a system designed for efficiency, not individuality. I no longer had to make choices. I wasn't in control anymore. I watched others go through the same transformation. People who had once lived full, independent lives began following the schedule instead of setting their own. They moved less, spoke less, and engaged less, not because they wanted to, but because the system made it easier to stop trying. And that's the real danger. It's not that nursing homes take away your freedom overnight. It's that the system gradually conditions you to let go of it. The longer you stay, the easier it is to forget the value of your independence. And before you know it, you're no longer living life on your terms. So, what's the lesson here? If you ever move into a facility, you must fight to stay independent. Stick to your own routines as much as possible. Insist on making your own choices, like what to eat, when to go outside, and how to spend your time. Keep doing things for yourself, even if help is available. Because if you don't actively hold on to your independence, the system will do it for you. Regret 2. Feeling forgotten. One of the hardest truths about moving into a nursing home is realizing that the world outside keeps moving without you. At first, I thought I'd still be connected to my old life, especially with family visits. They promised they would come often. My daughter Emily came by once a week, and my grandchildren visited on weekends. For a while, it felt like I still had a place in the outside world. But as the months went by, things started to change. Emily began calling instead of visiting. My grandchildren got busier with school and work. Holidays were the hardest. Everyone promised they'd come, but plans always seemed to change at the last minute. Before I knew it, I found myself sitting alone in a common room, watching other residents stare at the door, hoping today would be the day someone remembered them. It wasn't that my family stopped loving me. Life just got in the way. When you're not around every day, it's easy for people to assume you're fine, that you're adjusting, that you don't need as much attention. But the truth is, The longer you're in a nursing home, the easier it is for people to forget how much you still need them. I remember one evening sitting in my room, holding my phone, debating whether to call my son, Michael. I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want to remind him that I was here, waiting for a visit that might never come. So, I put the phone down. That's when it hit me. This was my life now. I watched the days go by, hoping someone would remember to include me. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you prepared for the loneliness? Because no matter how much your family loves you, once you're out of sight, it's easier than you think to become out of mind. Regret 3. Losing my sense of purpose. When I first moved into the nursing home, I thought I was just changing my living space. I didn't realize I was also changing why I lived. At home, I had responsibilities. I had routines, hobbies, and a reason to get up in the morning. Even the small things, watering the plants, making my own coffee, tidying up my space, gave me a sense of purpose. I knew I had a role in my own life. But in the nursing home, those daily rituals disappeared. Meals were made for me. Cleaning was done by someone else. The plants? Well, they weren't mine to take care of anymore. At first, I told myself it would be nice to finally relax. No more chores, no more responsibilities, just rest. But after a few weeks, I realized something was missing. The days felt long, stretched out with nothing to do but wait. I saw it in other residents too. People who had once been full of energy now spent their days sitting, staring, waiting for time to pass. There was a man named Jake, 84 years old, who had been a carpenter his entire life. At home, he was always fixing things, building little projects in his garage. But here, there were no tools, no projects, nothing for him to create. I watched as he slowly withdrew. His hands, once strong and skilled, are now idle in his lap. I feel useless, he told me one day. And I knew exactly what he meant. When you no longer have something to care for, something to work toward, life starts to lose its meaning. The mind slows down, the body follows, and soon you start to feel like just another resident in a place where time moves, but nothing really changes. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, what gives your life meaning? Because once you move in, finding purpose isn't as simple as filling your time. It's about fighting to hold on to the things that make you feel alive. Regret 4. Declining health. Faster than expected. Before I moved into the nursing home, I was doing well for my age. I wasn't running marathons, but I could still take care of myself, go for walks and cook my own meals. I had my little routines that kept me moving, grocery shopping, stretching in the mornings, even just walking around the house to keep my legs strong. But once I moved in, everything changed. At first, it seemed like I was just taking it easy. Meals were brought to me, and I no longer had to stand in the kitchen to cook. If I needed something, I could just press a button, and someone would come to help. But what I didn't realize was that the less I did for myself, the weaker I became. I stopped moving as much, and soon my legs felt stiffer. I sat more than I used to, and before I knew it, getting up from a chair started feeling like a chore. The muscles I had spent years maintaining were disappearing faster than I ever expected. And it wasn't just me. I saw it happen to others too. People who once walked on their own 2 feet were suddenly relying on wheelchairs. People who had once been independent now needed help with things they never struggled with before. The more help we were given, the more we seemed to need it. I remember my neighbour, Brittany, a 78-year-old woman, who was lively when she first arrived. She used to take daily walks around the facility, insisting that she wasn't going to slow down just because of her age, but after a few months, I noticed she wasn't walking as much. Then she started using a walker, then a wheelchair. One day she looked at me and said, "I don't know when it happened, but I feel like I aged 10 years in just a few months. And that's exactly what it felt like. When you stop using your body, you start losing it. And in a nursing home, where everything is designed to make things easier, it's easy to forget that movement isn't just about convenience. It's about surviving. If I had known how quickly I would lose my strength, I would have fought harder to keep moving, to stay active, and to push myself, even when I didn't feel like it. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, will you still have the motivation to keep your body strong when everything is set up to make life effortless? Because once you slow down, getting back up isn't as easy as you think. Regret 5. Realizing it's harder to leave than you think. When I first moved into the nursing home, I told myself it was temporary. I thought I'd give it a try, see how things went. And if I didn't like it, I could always leave. But what I didn't realize was just how hard it would be to get out once I was in. At first, it seemed simple. If I didn't like it, I'd just go back home. But home wasn't the same anymore. My house sat empty, and maintaining it from a distance became difficult. My children had already started making changes, selling things they thought I wouldn't need, even considering renting out the place. When I brought up the idea of returning, they hesitated. Are you sure you can manage on your own? Wouldn't it be safer to stay? We just want what's best for you. And then there was the issue of physical decline. After months of living in a place where I didn't have to cook, clean, or even walk very far, I wasn't as strong as I used to be. The independence I once had started slipping away, making the idea of moving back home more difficult than I ever imagined. I wasn't as confident in my ability to live alone, and that fear kept me stuck. I met others who had the same experience. They thought they'd try the nursing home for a little while, only to realize that leaving wasn't as easy as they thought. The longer you stay, the harder it becomes to adjust to life outside. Some people even lost the option entirely. Once their home was sold, or their savings were drained by the cost of care, there was no going back. That's the part nobody tells you. Moving in feels like a decision you can reverse, but for most people, it isn't. The nursing home slowly becomes your whole world, and before you know it, the outside life you once knew starts feeling like a distant memory. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you prepared for the possibility that once you go in, leaving might not be as simple as you think? Because once you settle in, the barriers to leaving, whether financial, physical, or emotional, can be harder to overcome than you expect. Regret 6. The loss of privacy and dignity. One of the things I didn't fully consider before moving into a nursing home was just how much privacy I would lose. At home, I had my own space. I could close my bedroom door, sit in silence if I wanted, and do things on my own terms. But in a nursing home, privacy is a luxury you don't always get to keep. From the moment I arrived, I felt like I was constantly being watched. Staff coming in and out, scheduled room checks, and shared spaces where you're rarely alone. Even simple things like getting dressed or using the bathroom often required someone's assistance. I know they were just doing their job, but it's not easy to accept help for things you've done independently your entire life. I remember my first week, struggling with the idea that I had to ask for permission to do things I once did without thinking. Want to take a shower? You might have to wait until someone is available to help. Need to use the restroom? Sometimes, pressing the call button means waiting longer than you'd like. Even meal choices were limited. If you don't like what's on the menu that day, well, too bad. And then there was the issue of roommates. Not everyone gets a private room, and sharing a space with someone else, someone you didn't choose, can be frustrating. I was lucky to have a kind roommate, but I heard stories from others who weren't so fortunate. Some had roommates who were loud, unclean, or even had cognitive issues that made sleep nearly impossible. And no matter how much you try to make your room feel like home, it's never truly yours. Dignity is a hard thing to lose. And I didn't realize how much of mine I'd have to surrender until I was already there. When people knock, but don't always wait for an answer before coming in, when you're spoken to like a patient instead of a person, when your daily routines are dictated by a schedule you didn't create, it changes you. You start feeling less like yourself and more like just another name on a list. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you prepared to give up the privacy and control you've had your entire life? Because once it's gone, it's hard to get back. Looking back, I don't regret growing older, but I do regret believing that a nursing home was my only option. I walked in expecting comfort, safety, and a better quality of life. What I found instead was a world that slowly took away my independence, my privacy, my purpose, and even my sense of self. Does that mean nursing homes are all bad? Not necessarily. Some people genuinely need the level of care they provide. But before you make that decision, think carefully about what you're giving up. Because once you move in, life will never be the same. If I could do it over, I would have fought harder to stay in my own home, explored more ways to get help without giving up my freedom, and made sure I truly needed to be there before making such a permanent move. If you're facing this decision, I hope you take the time to ask yourself, is this truly what's best for me, or is it just what seems easiest right now? The life you have today, your routines, your independence, your choices, is worth holding on to for as long as you can. Thank you for joining me today. I'd love to hear from you. Please leave a comment below and share one thing you've learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, and we appreciate every word you share. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If this message resonated with you, please consider subscribing to our channel and turning on the notification bell. Your support helps us continue creating content that can truly make a difference. Like, share, and stay connected, because we're rewriting the rules of aging on our own terms. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.